Good morning everyone. We'll continue with the antigen-antibody reaction wherein three more techniques are left. One is immunoelectrophoresis, second one is RIA, and the third one is the immunofluorescence. So the other techniques, the previous classes whatever we discussed were, the first one we discussed was agglutination, precipitation, that was followed by complement fixation. Then we discussed about the ELISA, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, and the Western blotting. Now the sixth technique is immunoelectrophoresis. First of all, we'll see what is immunoelectrophoresis. So immunoelectrophoresis is a combination of two techniques. The one of the technique you have already told you already. One is radial immunodiffusion, another one is the double immunodiffusion. So we are in the immunoelectrophoresis, we'll be doing immunodiffusion, but immunodiffusion will be done after the electrophoresis. So it's a combination of two techniques. One is electrophoresis, that is followed by the immunodiffusion. Now, whenever you have a sample, the serum sample, and you want to identify or check the presence of some of the proteins in that particular serum sample, for that purpose, first thing what we are going to do is separation of that protein, the mixture of protein into individual components. Okay, you know that to separate a mixture of component into individual component, you have to go for an electrophoresis technique. But we are not going for any complicated electrophoresis technique like polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis, but we will be doing a very simple electrophoretic movement of the serum protein by doing a simple electrophoresis technique that will be done on the agar. Okay, for this purpose, we need to prepare 1% of agar, and it will be prepared on a glass slide. The microscopic glass slide what you use for your regular microscopic work, the same slide will be used. In this slide, we have to make a well. Now, how will you make a well? For making the well, there is a gel puncture. So when I demonstrate the practical, I will be showing you how exactly a gel puncture looks. Gel puncture will have a ring and which will be connected to a syringe. So when you keep the ring on the solidified agar and pull the syringe, the agar block which is there in that ring will be removed. So that can be used as the well. So in the normal electrophoresis technique, we will be making comb to load the sample. Here we are not making the comb, well with the help of comb, we are making the well with the help of a gel puncture. So you can see here in the diagram, this is the glass slide with agarose and you need to make a well. So once after making the well, the serum sample what you have collected from the patient's blood. So first thing is collection of the blood, preparation of the serum. Once the serum is ready, that serum can be loaded into the well which is prepared with the help of the gel puncture. Now you need to apply the electrical current. When you apply the electrical current, the different components which are there in that particular serum sample that gets separated into individual components. Okay. So in the diagram I have given that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different components are separated after the electrophoresis. Now once the electrophoresis is done from the paper, from that gel, agarose gel. So this is the agarose gel. Once after the electrophoresis, near any side, either end of this glass slide, you have to cut the gel in this fashion. So that is known as the making a trough. Okay. So how will you make a trough? For making the trough, you have to cut the gel. So this is the, imagine that this is the glass plate with the agarose. Electrophoresis is over, and after the electrophoresis, what is the result? You get many bands. So these are the different bands which are there on the gel. You cannot see any of the bands. We are not doing any staining technique. It will be separated after the electrophoresis. Now once after the electrophoresis, with the help of a sharp blade, you have to cut the gel in an elongated way and make a trough. Fine. So when you cut the gel like this, what will happen? Whatever agar is there in that region, that will be cut and you have to lift it. So what will happen? A long elongated trough or a pit will be formed here there. Into that trough, you have to load the antibody. Okay. So you have to load the antibody, and after loading the antibody, you need to keep this plate in a humid chamber. You remember what is humid chamber? You need to take a petri dish, keep some wet cotton in that and keep this plate into the petri dish, keep it covered, leave it for 24 hours of time period. So humidity is required for the immunodiffusion to happen, otherwise the agar will get dried off. We don't want the agar to get dried, that is why we are making the humid chamber. So you need to keep it close it and leave it for overnight. Next day you can see for whichever antibody, the antibody what you are loaded, for that particular antibody, if any corresponding antigens are there you can see the precipitin arc. Okay, so depends on the antibody what you are loading into the trough, you can identify that whether that person has that particular antigen. Okay, so that is why we do the electrophoresis. Immunoelectrophoresis technique is used to identify the presence of an antigen in a serum sample. For that purpose, you need to make a agar plate, prepare a well, load the sample, do the electrophoresis. Once the electrophoresis is done, on the glass plate you have to make a trough by cutting the agar, and in that trough you have to put the antibody. Carefully you have to keep the plate in the humid chamber, leave it for overnight. Next day, wherever you are observing the precipitin arc, so this kind of precipitation is known as the precipitin arc. Wherever the precipitation arc is there, that indicates that this particular person is infected with those antigen or antibody. So depends on the sample. You can even load antigen into the trough. As I told you, all the immunological techniques are used to identify either the presence of antigen or the presence of antibody. So in here, if you are separating the antibody, into this trough you need to add the antigen. So here in this example we have taken the antigen loaded here, separation, then you are making the trough, loading the antibody, doing the diffusion and observing for the precipitin arc to identify whether that particular antigen is there in the serum sample or not. Okay, so this is one immunoelectrophoresis technique. Another immunoelectrophoresis technique is, the technique is known as the rocket immunoelectrophoresis. For doing the rocket immunoelectrophoresis, as the name says, rocket immunoelectrophoresis is a technique wherein after the electrophoresis and immunodiffusion technique, you can see a rocket-like precipitation band. That is why it is known as the rocket immunoelectrophoresis. So here what you need to do is, you need to prepare an agarose, 1% of agarose. You know that agarose will not dissolve in room temperature, you have to boil it. Once you boil it, when the temperature reaches to 60 degrees centigrade, you have to add the antibody. Okay, so whatever antigen you are looking for, that corresponding antibody you need to add into the agarose and then put it into the glass slide for solidification. So after the solidification, entire agarose will have uniformly distributed antibody. Now once after the solidification, you have to load the sample. For loading the sample, again you need to make the wells, and in this rocket electrophoresis you can load 5 different samples. So how much ever wells you are making, that many samples can be loaded. So for diagrammatic representation, I am making 5 wells and 5 different samples can be loaded here. Serum sample can be loaded here from 5 different people, 5 different patients. So once after the loading the sample, you are doing the electrophoresis. Okay, so when you do the electrophoresis, the antigens which you are loaded into the well, that gets separated, and because antibody is there in the agarose, the reaction happens, and after the reaction you can see a rocket-like precipitin arc. Okay, so when there is a rocket-like precipitin arc, that indicates that presence of the concentration of the antigen can be detected. The length of the precipitin arc is directly proportional to the concentration of the antigen. So patient number 1 and patient number 4, the concentration of antigen is less, whereas 2 it is little high, then followed by like 3, whereas patient number 5 that particular person has maximum concentration of the antigen. So whichever antigen you are looking for, that the concentration of the antigen you can quantify by using a rocket immunoelectrophoresis. For that purpose, you need to make an agarose gel. Into the agarose gel you need to add the antibody, whichever antigen you are looking for, that antibody you need to add. Mix it well and put it into the glass slide. Leave it for solidification. Once it is solidified, you have to make the wells. So once the wells are ready, you can load the serum sample from the patients. And here we have taken 5 different samples and do the electrophoresis. And after the electrophoresis, when you observe the plate, you can see a white color precipitin arc formation. Depends on the length of the precipitin arc, you can determine the concentration of the antigen. So where exactly highest concentration of antigen is there? In the 5th sample. That is followed by 3rd one, then that is followed by 2nd, then 4th and the 1st one. Right? That is known as the rocket immunoelectrophoresis. Now the next method is known as the RIA. RIA stands for radio immunoassay. Don't get confused with the radial immunodiffusion. That is RID. This is RIA. RIA stands for radio immunoassay. If you remember in LS, I told you that antibody is linked with an enzyme. In RIA, as the name says, antibody, what we are using here, that will be tagged with a radioactive isotope. So the most commonly used radioactive isotope is iodine 125. Okay, so iodine 125 is used. That is the most widely used radioactive substance to identify the presence of antigen. So it depends on the radioactivity. In the case of ELISA technique, depends on the color formed, you can identify the presence of antigen or antibody. Here depends on the emission of the radioactivity, we are going to identify the presence of antigen. So in this method, what we have to do is, this particular method is widely used. It will give a result in a very short time period. That is advantage of this method. The uses are, the first one, it is used for drug detection in the serum sample. If any drugs are there, okay, the presence of drug in the serum sample can be detected easily with the help of radio immunoassay. Hormone, presence of hormone or absence of hormone can be detected. Any disease causing antigen can be identified. This is one of the method which is used in the blood bank to identify the presence of pathogenic organism in the blood. So blood bank, will be studying in detail about the blood bank in the coming classes, in hematology classes. After collecting the blood in the blood bank, they will be looking for any pathogenic organism in the blood. So, culturing the blood and identifying the pathogen, it takes a long time. So to avoid that long time period for the result, to get the result, usually they go for the radio immunoassay to find out the pathogenic organisms or contaminants which are there in the blood. Okay, so these are the various application. Identification of the drug, any drug in the blood, identification of hormone, any antigen or antibody can be detected with the help of this radio immunoassay, and in blood bank it is used for identifying the contaminants. Now, how to do this? For this method also we have to depend on the ELISA microtiter plate. All of you know what is ELISA microtiter plate, right? So into the ELISA microtiter plate, you have to immobilize antibodies. Okay. First thing is, you have to take the microtiter plate, immobilize the antibody. Now the plate is ready for the radio immunoassay to perform. Now into this microtiter well, you have to add the labeled antigen. So labeled antigen, I will give a different color. For the labeled antigen, I am giving you black. Okay, when you add this labeled antigen, these are the labeled one. So when you add the labeled antigen, which is corresponding to the antibody, the antigens will occupy the antigen binding site of the antibody. What is that antigen binding site called as? Paratope. To the paratope, antigens will bind, and since here 3 antibodies are there, each antibody will have 2 antigen binding site, thereby 6 antigens will bind. 6 labeled antigens will bind to the paratope. Now once everything is done, you have to wash the microtiter well. Why are we washing? If any unbound antigens are there, that will be removed by the washing step. Once after the washing step, into this microtiter well, you have to add, so what is there in the microtiter well? Antibody which is conjugated with the labeled antigen. Into this particular well, you have to add the patient's serum. Patient serum sample you have to add. If the patient serum, if it has the antigen, there will be a competition between the antigen which is there in the serum and the antigen which is already bound to the antibody. In that competition, because since this antigen is labeled with the radioactive substance, the binding will be little weaker. So when you add a patient's serum antigen, since it is the very specific one for the antibody, there will be a competition, and these antigens which are there in the patient serum will try to occupy the antigen binding sites which are there in the antibody. Now what exactly happens is, when you add, after adding the patient serum sample, the bound antibodies, the labeled antibody, that will be replaced with the patient's sample. Now you can see here the most of the antigen binding sites are occupied by the antigen which was there in the patient serum, which is blue in color. So for the understanding, I made it blue, labeled one as black. Black is replaced with the blue. Now again you have to wash, and after washing, collect the buffer. Which buffer? The buffer what you are using here for the washing step. After washing, you need to collect the buffer. Check the radioactivity. Now here, always you remember that in radio immunoassay, we will be using the first step, we are adding the labeled antigen. Known number of labeled antigens will be added. How much ever antibody you are immobilizing, only that many antigens, labeled antigens will be added here. And then you are adding the patient serum sample. We don't know how many antigens are there. You add that, there will be a competition. In that competition, patient's serum antigens will win. They will occupy the antigen binding site, and all the unbound labeled antigens will be removed by the washing step. And we are collecting that buffer what we use for the washing step, and check the radioactivity which is there in the wash buffer. So the wash buffer which we use for washing the well, we need to collect it, check the radioactivity. Depends on the radioactivity, how much ever radioactivity is there, depends on that you can determine the amount of antigen which is there in that particular sample. Clear? So this is a very quick, easy method to identify the radioactivity. Instead of taking the plate for checking the radioactivity, what are we doing? We are washing the well. Whatever antigens, labeled antigens are removed from the antibody that will be there in the wash buffer, collect the wash buffer and check the radioactivity. Okay, by using scintillography method, you can check the radioactivity. So the principle behind radio immunoassay is, this is a competition between radio labeled and the non-labeled antigen. Radio labeled antigen and the patient's antigen, there will be a competition. In that competition, mostly the unlabeled one will win, and the radioactivity will be measured from the wash buffer which is used for washing the well. Fine. So this is a very important technique used for identifying in the presence of any foreign particle in the serum, and it is also used in the blood bank to detect the contaminants. And the last one is immunofluorescence. In ELISA, I told you that there are two methods, three methods are there: direct, indirect, sandwich method and the competitive method. In the immunofluorescence also, there are two methods, one is direct and the other one is the indirect. Now the important aspect about this immunofluorescence technique is, there is no need of separating the serum sample or anything. You can check it in the serum sample also, but mostly it is used for immunohistochemistry. What do you mean by immunohistochemistry? In a tissue sample, presence of any antigen can be detected with the help of immunofluorescence technique. So you have to make a thin section of the tissue sample, like a tumor sample. When in hospital, when tumor samples are there, and if you want to check the cancerous antigen, this immunofluorescence is a very quick method. Thin sections of the tumor will be done. It will be put on the immunohistochemistry slide, and you have to add the labeled antibodies, fluorescently tagged antibody. If that tissue sample, if it has the antigen, antibody will bind there, and you can see the fluorescence by using a fluorescent microscope. It's a very easy method to identify the presence of antigen in the tissue sample. So mostly you can use it for the serum sample also, but since serum sample has many other methods, the immunofluorescence is usually used for identifying the presence of antigen in a tissue sample. So this is the tissue sample in which we are looking for the presence of an antigen. Viral antigens or any other cancerous antigen can be detected in the tissue sample with the help of this particular method. So in the case of autopsy also, in the when the hospital, when they do autopsy to find out the presence of some of the antigen or some chemical in that particular tissue sample, there also you can use this immunofluorescence method. So in biopsy and in autopsy, they use immunofluorescence technique. So tissue sample, and in that antigen, whatever antigen you are looking for that you need to produce a monoclonal antibody. Monoclonal antibody will be tagged with a fluorescent tag, fluorescent label, and you know what are the different types of fluorescent labels which are used generally. The same fluorescent labels can be used. When you add this antibody which is tagged with the fluorescent label, if antigens are there, they bind there, and that tissue sample, when you observe under the fluorescent microscope, you can see the fluorescence. This method is known as the direct method. In indirect method, what we are using is into the tissue sample, what is there in the slide. First, you need to add a primary antibody which is very specific for the antigen. That is followed by the addition of secondary antibody which is having a fluorescent tag. Any method we can use, either direct or indirect. So the problem here is, if you are using a direct one, you have to label the antibody. First antibody what you are using for binding, that itself you have to tag it. In this method, you are looking for an antigen, you are adding a primary antibody, and you are using a secondary antibody which is specific for the primary antibody. Thereby this technique is known as the indirect method. So it is used in immunostaining and immunohistochemistry. So in all these three lectures, I discussed about the various methods which are considered as the serological test to identify the presence of antigen or antibody. Serological tests are very quick. You will get the result within a short time period when compared to all the microbiological experiment. So in earlier days, to identify the presence of anything, we need to go for either microbiological experiment or biochemical analysis, which takes a long time, and then you need to go for reading and then checking. Many steps are there. All those things we can overcome by using all these serological method. It will give result within a short time period. So all the different methods we have discussed, such as precipitation, agglutination, complement fixation, then ELISA, Western blotting. Then today's class we discussed about radioimmunoassay, that is RIA, immunoelectrophoresis and immunofluorescence. So all the methods are very important. Please go through that, and if any doubts are there, you can clarify. Thank you.